Let's get ready to mortgage. He is the prince of programs, guru of guidelines, master of matrices. He puts the fun in funding. Please welcome Mark, Mr. Mortgage, I tell.
All right. Hey guys, my name is Mark Eitel, and you are listening to the Mr. Mortgage Show. And is that not the greatest intro of all time? I mean, I'll put that up there with anybody's show intro. I feel on top of the world every time I listen to that. Matter of fact, I used to listen to that in the car to hype myself up on the way into the studio. So anyway, guys, super happy to be with you this week. We've got a great show lined up for you. I am going to share, I was a fly on the wall in a discussion about reverse mortgages. Man, oh man, we are going to debunk the curse of the reverse, because I sat in a room of industry professionals quietly in the corner on my hand, listening to this debate rage on, and not one person had a full grasp of the program. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the younger generation and what we can do to help them over that hump of first-time buyer, because, man, a big percentage of the population is getting left behind. And we're talked about two ends of the spectrum right there, right? The group that has a load of equity and they're considering doing something with it in the form of a reverse mortgage. And the other end of that spectrum is the avocado toast generation, was what they were called in this report that I read. I'm going to share all that with you. But before we get to that, guys, Jen is back there. I think she's got something to say. Jen, what's on your mind?
You're not going to sing again today, are you? Please.
Yeah.
No.
Come on.
Thank you.
It wasn't that bad. Guys, if you missed last week's show, I sang an original mortgage Christmas carol, and you can find that at mrmortgageradio.com and check out last week's show. Apparently, Jen was overwhelmed with phone calls asking where they could get the extended long play version. No, they were saying, don't let him sing. Okay, I get it. Matt, you know what's funny is I was going to sing today. I was going to sing Beans and Bologna. Don't know. Guys, if you don't know what I'm talking about, there's an amazing... the guy's got a great voice. He's a bit of a rough character, a little bit of an outdoorsman, if you can read between the lines. And he frequents a convenience store, and the convenience store cashier films this gentleman singing in the store and then posts it on social media. And there's a big thing happening on social media where people are taking that video and putting audio tracks behind it and mixing it and turning it into music. And when Jen wasn't in the studio, I went back there and played with all the computers and buttons and knobs and turned it into a song called Beans and Bologna. And we posted it on the Facebook page. All right, I won't sing it. Hey, let's dive right into this week's show. So I'm talking about misconceptions around the reverse mortgage, and then we're going to dive into the data. As I mentioned, I was in this room, and I purposely stayed out of the conversation because I wanted to see where it naturally ended up, right? We had people on both sides of the argument, pro the reverse mortgage and anti the reverse mortgage, having a very interesting conversation, and a couple times quite heated. Well, guys, not anyone understood the program fully. They were all hitting around the head of the nail, but nobody was hitting it on the head of the nail, which fascinated me because these were real estate agents and mortgage brokers. And reverse mortgages weren't the topic of conversation. It was the senior community feeling locked into their home because they have low interest rates or no mortgage, and not wanting to sell and move and then have increased expenses around a higher valued property because they're now releasing the previous property from the homestead exemption, and now they're paying a higher tax base, higher insurance, and then if they borrow money, they're paying at a higher interest rate. But it turned into a reverse mortgage conversation because somebody offered that as an alternative. And guys, it's a brilliant alternative if you understand the program. So I just want to touch on a couple wild misconceptions that I overheard in this conversation. One is the pro side said, you can never lose your home. You take the reverse mortgage and you never have to make a mortgage payment. Well, that part's true, but they said that you can never lose your home to a foreclosure. Well, that's not true. You have to maintain the property, and you've got to keep the home insured, and you've got to pay the taxes. That's a mandatory requirement. If you don't do that, and if there's an association, you have to pay the association dues. But if you don't keep those things paid, you're in default, and default could lead to foreclosure. So yes, it's a fantastic program. And we're going into this next 10-year period where more and more people are going to need it. There was some data that was talked about in this space where 30% of seniors run out of money in retirement. Well, that's what this loan program is designed for. So that part was super encouraging. But the level of understanding that these mortgage brokers and real estate agents had about the program just lacked a bit. And I just sat there to see where it ended up. Another interesting thing is, well, all of your equity is eaten up, and your kids are going to be stuck with a big bill if the home is worth less than the loan amount. So let's break those into two. So the equity is going to be eaten up. Well, the argument against that was sell your home and then go buy something and get a small mortgage. Well, you're going to live off the proceeds of the sale, which is your equity. So you're going to eat your equity up, but you're going to do it one monthly mortgage payment at a time versus live in the home that you've grown comfortable in, you love, you've got a ton of equity and a low monthly base of taxes and insurance. That was an interesting argument, right? So live where you are on the equity, or sell, extract the equity, and go live on the equity each month as you pull it out of your bank. So there wasn't a lot of merit to that. I just found it interesting that it was being misunderstood. The second part of that was you were going to leave your kids with a big bill if the property is worth less than you owe. Well, that's not true, guys. It's a non-recourse loan on the heirs. It's part of FHA. It's a federally insured loan program. You pay for that luxury as part of your closing costs, and then your heirs aren't hit with a big bill at the end. The worst that happens in that instance is you don't leave them a ton of money, but it's your money to begin with. So found that truly, truly fascinating. And then there were lots of misunderstandings about the nuances of how you access the capital, how your equity line can grow. Yes, the equity line portion of the reverse mortgage can grow. It was super, super interesting. So if anybody has questions about that, let's dive into that. And this leads me right into the reason I wanted to mention reverse mortgages, because anybody who's thinking about it, you've done all the right things. You've made all the right moves. You own real estate, you have equity, and you've now have the opportunity to use that equity to make life more comfortable. Well, guys, Meredith Whitney was on CNBC. And if you don't know Meredith Whitney, she's highly, highly regarded in the space of finance, money management, economic forecasts. And she was talking about the state of the housing market. And this number fascinated me. The group 18 years to 38 years old, she calls them the avocado toast generation because they prefer luxurious experiences over building wealth. 86% of them don't own real estate. I was going to say rent, but I don't know that for a fact because they may live in mom's basement or in a tiny house or in a van down by the river. But 86% of them are not participating in homeownership. That means only 14% of that age group is participating in homeownership, which is traditionally the entry-level age group. So never before has that number been so low. And she says they've got good jobs and they're earning good income. They're just spending it on, she calls the Instagram life. You hear me say that all the time too. Building experiences rather than building wealth. Guys, that's frightening because that's the typical first-time home buyer. Now 86% of them are waiting longer to buy a home, and it's getting harder and harder. And we talked about it a couple weeks ago. That first-time home buyer needs to lower their expectations and get in where they fit in so they can start building equity. There was a lot of interesting data in there. $21 trillion in equity, and they're missing out on their fair share of it. 70% of homeowners are over the age of 50. So that's more fuel for the argument that the old folks are getting it right, and we got to get the younger generation picking up what we're laying down, if you will. But guys, we can talk about that and a whole lot more. I might even to break into the Beans and Bologna song. If you follow us on Facebook, you know what I'm talking about. But hey guys, you hear the music, you know what that means. That's my cue. We'll be back in a few. Sit tight on the other side of this very short break. We'll be back with more of the Mr. Mortgage Show.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel, and you are tuned into the Mr. Mortgage Show. We are wound up and ready to rock and roll today. We are going to continue the fun here in one moment. If you've got questions or comments, just call or text 855-462-7292. That's 855-462-7292, affectionately known as the Anytime Hotline, because it rings right here when Jen and I are in the studio doing the show, and it forwards to my office the rest of the time. So truly the Anytime Hotline. Or if you prefer, you can just head over to MrMortgageRadio.com. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. In addition to all of the links and the good stuff that we share each week being posted there, you'll see right in the middle of the page is a big orange button that says, get your questions on the air. I think that's what it says. Click that button, type in your question, and Jen will read it on the air for you. Hey, before we dive into your questions, I know we've got a couple back there already. I just wanted to give a big congratulations to Todd from Winter Park. Todd won last week's trivia contest. And if you listened to last week's show, in addition to me singing Christmas carols that Jen has forbidden from ever happening again, we'll see, guys. I'll break into song, I promise. He was the winner of the trivia contest. We talked about Doug and Bob McKenzie and the movie. I mistakenly called it The Great White North, which I'm not sure where that came from. But the movie was called Strange Brew. And the question was, what beer was featured in that movie? And Todd was kind enough to be the very first person with the right answer, Elsinore beer. Elsinore Brewery in Canada was where all the action took place in that movie. So, Todd, we are sending you your T-shirt. It will leave with us today, and I'll drop it off at the post office. And I'm going to throw in a Mr. Mortgage hat as well as the Mr. Mortgage T-shirt. So you, my friend, are going to be the pimp of the park. You are going to look good at the barbecue, all outfitted up in your Mr. Mortgage gear. So thank you for participating. And, guys, we may do that from time to time. That was quite fun. There were a lot of interesting answers to that question, but Todd was the first one in with Elsinore. So anyway, now that that's out of the way and all the gratitudes and thank yous and encouragements, let's dive into your questions. Hey, Jen, I'm going to toss it your way. Go ahead with the first question.
Pedro wants to know, we found a great deal on a condo, but are having a hard time finding a mortgage because it's a co-op. Are there any options for co-ops?
Hey, Pedro, great question. And co-op gets a lot of people super confused because if it looks like a condo and it walks like a condo, it's a condo, right? Well, no, sometimes it's a co-op. And guys, a co-op is an ownership structure, not an architectural style. A co-op simply means that the building, if you will, is owned by a corporation and you get a share of stock, if you will, in that corporation, and that share gives you access, full rights and benefits of the unit in that building that share is attached to. That's the best way I can describe it. So to answer your question, yes, there are a variety of mortgage programs available for co-ops. Sometimes the interest rate is a little bit higher. Right now, you can plan on having to put down somewhere around 20%. And then there are a couple additional protocols because it's not the same lien procedure and foreclosure procedure as a typical mortgage on what's called real property. It involves suing for that share and being able to then liquidate that share as the asset that's liened in this instance. So there's a document that the board of directors of the co-op need to approve on the lender side and acknowledge that they're going to sign off on this because they're collateralizing that share. And then the lender has to review, in addition to the budget, which is pretty typical with any condo, they're going to review the shareholder agreement for the co-op to make sure that they have access to all of the lien rights necessary to foreclose if they have to. Because anytime anybody's lending you money, they're doing it thinking the worst case, right? What if we have to foreclose? And in this instance, it's a different protocol for foreclosing on a co-op, so that's why the additional steps. But be encouraged, my man. There are several mortgage programs out there, and if any of that makes sense to you and you'd like to have a discussion about it, I'd be happy to help. We're here if you need us. Just call or shoot me an email, and we'll set up an opportunity to jump on the phone. But yeah, feel good about it. There are options out there, and I'd be happy to help you if you need a hand. Hey, Jen, throw me another question.
Terrence sent this question. My wife just went back to work after taking a leave of absence during COVID. She's with a different company, but in the same industry. Can we use her income to help us qualify?
So this is a great question. Now, because you said leave of absence during COVID, my mind instantly went to this being a long period of time that she was out of work. So my gut reaction was going to be no, but that's not the case. If the leave of absence is a shorter period of time and can be explained, and she re-entered the workforce in a position that she had already previously established, and she went into a full-time job, and her previous work experience was a full-time job, you might have a shot. And the reason that I was flying to the gut reaction of no was I recently had a circumstance where a gentleman left his former employer and started a company. And this guy's wildly successful. He's doing all the right things. Started his own company, and the previous company asked him to come back, and he's doing well on his own, and he's unable to come back full time, but he agreed to work remotely part-time to help them. Because that gap was 18 months and he went from full-time to part-time, and the part-time employment is only a short period of time, we're talking about less than 3 months, in that instance, we're unable to use the freshly back to work income and work history. So I hope that helps. I know that was a long answer, but I just wanted to throw those additional qualifiers in there because it's always worth exploring. I tell people all the time, don't take the first no, dig a little bit deeper. And that demonstrates why, because my gut reaction was a no because of that previous experience. But if we dig deeper and we uncover those additional things I mentioned, you're likely to be okay. So I hope that helps. If at very least it gives you encouragement to dive a little deeper. And as always, we're here if you need additional info. Hey guys, you hear the music creeping up behind me? You know what that means? Jen is telling me, be quiet, stop singing, and let's get into a break. That's my cue. We'll be back in a few. On the other side of this very short break, we'll be back with more of the Mr. Mortgage Show. Hey, it's Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show, and I'm going to interrupt this commercial break to ask you for a favor. If you know any friends, family, coworkers, or the guy in front of you at the grocery line who's talking or thinking about buying or selling or refinancing real estate, I'm hoping I can count on you to help me spread the word, introduce them to me, to the team. You can do that by simply sharing MrMortgageRadio.com. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. Guys, it's Mark Eitel, NMLS 1929005. Now, back to the commercials.
Here's another 5-star review.
We started our loan with a different company. They said we were approved, but at the last minute they told us there was a problem. I still don't know what went wrong, but thankfully our real estate agent told us about Mark. I was pretty stressed, but it's the perfect house, so we gave Mark a shot. He got it done. I'm not sure what was different, but I don't really care. We even got a better interest rate and with less money out of pocket than the first guy quoted us. It was a great surprise. Yes, I'm happy to recommend Mark and his Mr. Mortgage team.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel, and you are listening to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Friends, if you have questions or comments, just call or text 855-462-7292. That's 855-462-7292. That is the Anytime hotline. Jen's womanning the hotline, and she'll get your questions on the air. 855-462-7292. or head over to mrmortgageradio.com. That's mrmortgageradio.com, mrmortgageradio.com. Right in the middle of the page is a big button that says get your questions on the air. Click that button and Jen will do the rest. So speaking of Jen and your questions, no more song, no more dance. She's kicked me in the pants. It's time to get on with the questions. So let me throw it her way and we'll keep the questions coming. Go ahead, Jen.
Craig sent this text. What is the minimum down payment for a duplex? We want to move into one unit. Our plan is to buy another one and move every 2 years.
Awesome plan and awesome question. House hacking your way to a profitable rental portfolio. So the answer is either 3 or 3.5%, depending on which loan program you use. A lot of people will use the FHA loan program for this particular strategy, and that requires a 3.5% down payment. There are some conventional loan programs that may work at 3%, but if you figure 3.5%, you're good to go. And if your plan is to move every 2 years, this is an interesting strategy because it allows you to get in with a minimal amount of money and then build some equity. Some people will refinance, pull the equity out, and go duplicate the process. They call it, some people call it BRRRR, but yours is not directly a BRRRR because you intend on living in it. So it's more of a house hack. But I love it. I love the strategy, and equity builds wealth. So way to get started with a duplex as a primary residence. Good stuff. Appreciate the question. Hey, Jen, throw me another one.
Jasmine sent this through the website. This one is complicated. We are buying a house with cash for my son. We intend to sell him the house with your gift of equity idea. Is there a waiting period before we can sell?
Hey, Jasmine. Man, I love this. So we talk about this all the time. You're doing it a little bit differently, but we talk about people who buy a property, rent it out until their children are ready to leave the nest, and then they sell that property to them with the gift of equity. It sounds like you're either in a position to capitalize on an opportunity, and the front end of this scenario has to happen quickly. So you're going to jump in with cash and then sell to him with that gift. I love it. This is great stuff. Now, if his loan is an FHA loan, then there's what's called the FHA flip rule, and you're going to have to wait 90 days, I think it is, before the contract can be written, not before it can be closed. A lot of people get that one wrong. The clock starts ticking on the writing of the contract. So if he's going to buy it from you with a conventional loan, then there's less of a timeline consideration. But if you're going to use an FHA loan, just research that FHA flip rule, the timeline for that, and make sure you've got that 90 days built into your strategy, because it's going to be 90 days then plus the period of time it takes him to close. So I hope that helps. But this is a great question and a great strategy. Guys, you can sell your home to a family member and gift them a portion of the equity. So in theory, they could come to the table with $0 out of pocket. And we see this happen a lot where parents, they want to pull out some of that equity and go move, but they don't need it all. And their intent was to leave the property to their kids eventually anyway. So they can sell it now, use the gift of equity strategy, pull their share of it out, and go live happily ever after. And the kids got into the house with, no money out of pocket. And that gift can be 3% or it can be 50%, whatever makes the math work and whatever meets your goals. So brilliant question. And if you need more information, please give me a shout. I love this creativeness, and you're making it happen. So I'm excited for you, but we're here if you need us. Hey, Jen, throw me another one.
Samantha sent this. If sellers won't pay commissions anymore, can we add our agent's commission to our closing costs when we buy? I'm very confused by all of this lawsuit news.
Oh, man. The lawsuit news, right? If you guys are under a rock, maybe you're unaware of it, but the big class action lawsuit against the National Association of Realtors and a big group of national brokerages on how the commissions are charged. I think it's less about how they're charged and more about how they're disclosed. Right now, there's no way to do it. And it's interesting because there's some dialogue about it, but, VA explicitly says it can't be. And there's not anything that allows the mortgage company to add those additional fees to roll it in on the real estate side. So it's an interesting conversation that a lot of people are having. And guys, I may be the first person that you hear say this, but I don't think the seller pays anything. I don't think the seller pays the commission to their agent or to the buyer's agent. I think the buyer pays for it all by agreeing to a price that includes the selling agent's commission and the buying agent's commission. And that's a whole nother can of worms that nobody's opened up yet, because they're suing, saying that the seller should not have paid the buyer's commission. Well, guys, the buyer's the only one that brings money to the table. And yes, the seller has agreed that a portion of that money they take from the buyer will then be paid as commissions to the cooperating agencies, but that doesn't start off as the seller's money. The buyer agrees to bring all of it to the table, some of it out of their pocket and some of it borrowed. So we're not talking about seller paying anything. In reality, we're talking about that's a whole nother conversation. And some people think I'm nuts for thinking that deeply about it, but I just find all of it quite ironic. And I think the biggest thing that comes out of all of this is the much needed additional transparency and additional disclosure documents, so everybody is on the same page. I think that's the biggest challenge with this. So I've stayed out of this conversation, but I'm happy to have a dialogue with anybody about it if you wish to go down this road. So I hope it helps. I don't think there's an immediate opportunity for you to roll those into the buy side, at least not into the mortgage at the moment. So I hope that helps. Hey, Jen, let's try to squeeze in another question.
Roger sent this. When we are looking at investment properties, I know the higher the cap rate, the better. But does the math include appreciation?
Hey, Roger, that is a great question with an easy answer. No, appreciation doesn't factor into the cap rate because appreciation's not guaranteed. So when you're looking at the return on investment, either cash on cash or the gross income or net income, however you're going to calculate it, against the gross cost of the transaction. When you're figuring the cap rate and those ROI figures, you're not going to pull appreciation into that because there's no way to know what that is. So, but great question. Other than that, cap rate would apply the same way for a commercial or a residential property. So brilliant observation though. And if you'd like to dive deep on it, just give me a shout. I geek out on this stuff, so I'd love to talk to you in length about it. Man, we've had some great questions. We even got a cap rater in there. That's a good one. Hey guys, you hear the music? You know what that means? That is my cue. We'll be back in a few. Sit tight on the other side of this very short break. We'll be back with more of the Mr. Mortgage Show. Hey, it's Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show, and I'm going to interrupt this commercial break to ask you for a favor. If you know any friends, family, coworkers, or the guy in front of you at the grocery line who's talking or thinking about buying or selling or refinancing real estate, I'm hoping I can count on you to help me spread the word, introduce them to me, to the team. You can do that by simply sharing MrMortgageRadio.com. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. Guys, it's Mark Eitel, NMLS 1929005. Now, back to the commercials.
Here's another 5-star review.
We started our loan with a different company. They said we were approved, but at the last minute they told us there was a problem. I still don't know what went wrong, but thankfully our real estate agent told us about Mark. I was pretty stressed, but it's the perfect house, so we gave Mark a shot. He got it done. I'm not sure what was different, but I don't really care. We even got a better interest rate and with less money out of pocket than the first guy quoted us. It was a great surprise. Yes, I'm happy to recommend Mark and his Mr. Mortgage team.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel, and you are listening to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Guys, we are going to dive right back into more of your questions. If you've got questions or comments, just call or text 855-462-7292. That's 855-462-7292. That is the anytime hotline. Jen is womaning the hotline and she'll get your questions on the air, or head over to MrMortgageRadio.com. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. Right in the middle of the page is the button that you click that button, get your questions on the air, and Jen will take care of the rest. All right, I'm going to throw it to Jen and let's keep the questions coming. Go ahead, Jen. What do you have?
Megan sent this through the website. I'm getting mixed messages about down payment programs. Some people say it's a loan and I'll have to pay it back, and some say it doesn't get paid back. Which one is it? Thank you.
It is like the girl I dated in school, multi-personality. It's both. It's both. Some of them are true grants that require no repayment. Some are forgivable right at the closing table. Some are forgivable over a period of time. And then the other category of multi-personality down payment assistance programs is that they act like a second mortgage, and they do require a monthly payment. Some will be paid back only at closing of the sale or a refi, so they're like a silent second. So to answer your question, both are right answers. There's a variety of options for the different down payment assistance programs. Some are grants and some are loans. If there's a specific one that you want to talk about, though, just call us back and we can dive deep into that, and I might know it off the top of my head. But great question. Hey, Jen, do you have another one ready?
Nick sent this. Do you think the verdict in the NAR lawsuit will ease prices because of lower real estate commissions?
No, I don't. There's still so much left to that we really don't know. I think what's going to come out of all of this is there may be a modification to how much you pay, but I don't think it's going to change the price that a seller charges a buyer. I just think we're looking at a lot more disclosure and a lot more flexibility and choice in the transaction, in who pays what and how much they pay. But I don't have a crystal ball, and there's still so much of this that needs to play out in the courts before everybody knows what the new sets of rules are. But definitely, wind of change is blowing. We'll dive into that more when we've got some really meaty substance to discuss. But great question. Thanks for calling that one in. Hey, Jen, throw me another.
Brian emailed this. We have your Zillow book, and I think we can do this. Should we wait until after the holidays to get a larger pool of potential buyers?
That was a mouthful. Potential pool of buyers. It's interesting. It's the age-old debate, right? Anybody who's shopping over the holidays is super serious. You have far less tire kickers. So it's more of a hassle to sell. I mean, if you decorate for Christmas and you got the tree up, and if you're in a region where there's snow on the ground, you got people traipsing through your house and I get it. I'm never a fan of waiting. We just saw a pullback in interest rates this week, and we saw an uptick in activity because of it. So if that happens now and you're ready now, now may be the time. So yeah, I'd be happy to discuss it with you further. And if you have the book, and guys, if you wonder what the Zillow book is that we're talking about, we wrote that for sale by owner book and that for sale by owner strategy. It's FSBOZILLA, FSBOZILLA.com. Grab your free copy of the book if it's something you're considering. We're seeing more and more interest in that. And I think it's partially to do with the lawsuits. I think people are hyper aware of commissions at the moment. And I also think it has a bit to do with the slowdown in the market and the thought of, if I don't have to pay a commission, I may be able to help a buyer with a rate buy down or closing costs and make my property a little more attractive on the overall market, and then still net the same, if not more, by not having it. So I think there's two things that are really pushing the interest in that. But guys, if you're curious, go to FSBOZILLA.com. I hope I answered your question. I got a little sidetracked there. Hey, Jen, throw me another one.
Laura sent this through the website. A huge thank you. We did the fee sheet review, used your talking points, and our mortgage guy lowered our rate by 0.5%. Saves us over $100 a month. You guys are awesome.
I love the enthusiasm in which you read that question because I saw it come up on the board and I wondered what you were going to do with that. Hey, Laura, congratulations. I'm super, super excited for you. Guys, we'll do that for any of the listeners. Go to feesheetreview.com. You'll get a loan estimate. Some people call it a fee sheet. It's a breakdown of the costs when you apply for a mortgage. And Laura sent hers in and we looked at it and there were some places that she could clearly negotiate. So we say it all the time. One of three things happen when we look at that fee sheet. We either congratulate you on getting an awesome deal and then you can put that out of your mind. You got a second opinion. You know, you got a great rate. You got a great fee structure. Off you go. You're on your way. You're happily ever after. The other thing is what we did with Laura. Here's some places that you might be able to save some money. With this front end fee, you should be getting a better rate. And she was able to accomplish that. So I'm super, super excited for you, Laura. And lastly, this is my favorite one. Sometimes we can save you a load of money on rate and fees by offering you a competitive quote, but it doesn't always end up that way. Laura was able to work it out with her guy and we're standing back up. So I am super, super excited for you. Congratulations. Laura, thank you so much for sharing that good news and spread the word. Share the Mr. Mortgage team with your friends and family. Maybe we can help them too and jump in and save them a load of money. So I appreciate that. All right, Jen, let's keep the questions coming.
Lester is asking, I'd like to take a reverse mortgage and pay it off so I can use it as a credit line if I need it in the future. Is this even possible? Does it make sense? Thank you for taking my question. That was 2 questions, Lester.
Technically, it was 2 questions. She got you, Lester. So this is super, super interesting. This is doable. And I'm thinking of a gentleman right now who has his set up this way and absolutely loves it. He took a reverse mortgage. He paid it down over time, then paid it off. And he's got it sitting there as an equity line and it's growing. The balance is growing each month. The available line is growing. So yes, absolutely doable. Does it make sense? These are the questions I would need to know a lot more information before I could even comfortably answer it. Because if you're talking about a pure in case of emergency break glass situation, then maybe an equity line because they're cheaper. Some of them have no costs associated with getting an equity line opened with the bank. It's going to have a higher interest rate in a shorter term, but it's more cost effective to put it into place. Could that accomplish your goal? But I would need to have a discussion with you to go a little bit deeper on that side of things. But yes, it's doable. The make sense part of it is where I'm struggling because I'd like to better understand what your goals are before I could even participate in that side of the answer. So great question. A lot of people are unaware of that. That goes back to the opening segment. How much misunderstanding surrounds this loan program is mind-blowing to me. Hey, Jen, can we squeeze in another question?
Rebecca sent this question. We've been on the Rec Refi website, and it looks like we can save money each month by doing this. Does it make sense to buy the rate down too? What rate should we use in the calculator for this idea?
Hey, that is a great question. I would not lower it more than 1 full percentage point just because of the fees associated with it. If you try to go lower than that, you're going to exceed the fee limit. I know it's tempting because you might have a load of equity, but let's say the rate of the day is 7.25, then use 6.25 to be safe, and you'll see how much money you can save by paying off all those other bills and then by also reducing the interest rate from 7.25 to 6.25. But I'm super excited for you and thank you for checking out that website and using the tools there. Guys, that's at RecRefi, RecRefi.com. If you are at all curious about what a debt consolidation loan looks like in this interest rate environment. And I know it seems crazy and totally counterintuitive, but people are saving money monthly by paying off a bunch of high interest rate debt. And yes, they're having to let go of that super sexy 3% interest rate. But if you want to see for yourself, just check out RecRefi.com recrefi.com. That's recrefi.com. But guys, you hear the music, you know what that means? We have wrapped up another week in the studio here at the Mr. Mortgage Show. Man, oh man, time flies when you give me a microphone. And I didn't even sing to you this week. We'll have to hold that over till next week. Guys, if you need us during the week when we're not on the air, just head over to MrMortgageRadio.com. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. All our contact info is there. MrMortgageRadio.com. Otherwise, Jen and I will see you back here next week. Same time, same station. Guys, have an awesome week.